after a while, when you get a little older, and let's say you're like 40, you're 45, you're 50, and you don't have the museum shows and you don't have the catalogs and you don't have the auction history that you expected when you were 20, that kind of that pedigree really is an oppression.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
It works on you.
Yeah, it works on you.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I mean. Like I've spent most of my life disproving my art education.
Today, I'm talking with Everest Hall and Mike Russnak, whose partnership radiates humor, tenderness, and creative courage. Their story moves from New York to rural New Mexico, from art school expectations to self-made practices, and from collapse to reinvention. This conversation is about what it means to build a creative life alongside the person you love, how two people can become each other's compass, mirror, and place to begin again. All right. Hey, Everest and Mike, thank you so much for joining me on I'm Here Too.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So we have a lot to cover. And so I want to just jump right in. I want to jump in first to art education and practice, because I think that's going to ground where we're going to go for the rest of this conversation.
Yeah.
Everest, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to start sort of a little bit of a long time ago. I'm not going to say how long ago, but high school. You
Right.
went
Well,
to, tell
you,
me, no, you want to say something about that.
no, I'm really happy that you asked about this. Um,
Yeah.
so to go back a little bit, both my
Yeah.
parents went to LaGuardia High School.
Okay.
So
For the
that like
arts.
for the arts in New York City, the Fame High
Yep.
School. So that kind of early idea of an art education, and like a high school education was kind of distilled in my brain. And I ended up going to this really amazing school in the mid '90s called Walnut Hill School for the Arts, and it was really magnificent and kind of formed a basis for me to understand myself as an artist and to be like comfortable. It was a small school in Massachusetts, and the '90s was really ideal, and it was like a really kind of highlight of my early life. And then it ended up being something. I was thinking about that question when you sent it to me, and I was like, okay, this is like fundamental, but now it's more fundamental to work against. And it's an interesting parallel. That was what was super important and like a foundational thing for me, is also something I've been trying to disprove my entire life. Which is this idea of,
Oh,
totally, I've been trying to disprove it, which is this idea of like talent and skill, and also East Coast educational elitism and class, and to be like, so I grew up in this, I was born in 1974. I grew up in the 80s. There was a lot of like TV about money and glamour and high culture, Dynasty and Dallas and just everything, and even Silver Spoons.
Mm-hmm.
I intentionally like made best friends with this kid named Andy who looked like Ricky Schroeder.
Oh God.
He looked just like Ricky Schroeder. He did. Just to kind of get into that class.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I was chasing class for most of my life, only to discover a lot about wealth and poverty, and that I will never be that in that class. But to go into prep school in high school, I was really proud of myself to get into the school. It was art and music and dance, and that's where I started kind of tiptoeing into performance and dance and theater. I would do little funny dance routines and such, and we'd have like school assemblies, and it was a really safe space to kind of tap into the joy of creation. But it also, it's got double edges to it.
So you did that, and then you ended up, I believe, for your MFA, you went to another bastion of privilege and northeast symbolism of all those things. You went to Yale for your MFA, correct?
Yeah, well, so there was Walnut Hill School, and then I went to the Chicago Art Institute,
Right.
which is like Third Coast, really interesting Third Coast mentality. Um, and like there was no modernism, like modernism didn't hit Chicago the way it did in New York and LA. So it's kind of quirky and a little offbeat and homespun and vernacular. And then I went to Yale, and I really thought, everything was set. When I got into Yale, I was like, oh, it's cream cheese from now on for my life. I'm guaranteed. I'm a brilliant artist. I'm a brilliant young man. Everything's fine. It's all gonna be fine from now on, and I'm gonna like support myself painting, and I'll have patrons, and I'm sure there's a Peggy Guggenheim out there for me.
And this is how it's going to go.
And this is how it's going to go because I got this degree. And then I got there, and all the teachers were really burnt out. They didn't like Gay Boy Everest. I had a lot of problems getting along with the faculty. Mel Bachner really liked me a lot, and I got along really well with Mel Bachner. And I spent more time in the sculpture studio, in the sculpture department, going to their sculpture lectures than the art school. And just the high school and the art professors over at Yale were so focused on modernism, and they're all kind of like were taught by these like students of the modernists. In my high school, it was a teacher who I loved this. I loved my teachers in high school, but there's this like icon called Neil Welliver who did these fabulous landscape paintings, but they're all based on Pollock. It was all like kind of everything was up to the surface, and everyone was chasing Pollock and chasing these ideas, which seemed to have already been kind of played through and worked out. And I really wasn't interested in that, and I really couldn't. Like I had already kind of processed modernism. It's like how many and Hans Hoffman. I mean, you know, squares. Got it.
There's more to mine out of squares, Everest, but okay, I'll give you that.
There's more to it. There's color, like red and green against each other. I know. It's just so not. It's not interesting to me. But I kind of really focused myself on being a painter and blah blah blah. But yeah, Yale. That's that. But I got to thank myself, and I got to thank Yale for a lot of the opportunities I got in life, and a lot of jobs I got, and a lot of people would kind of talk to me differently because I have this education. At first, it felt good, and then it felt terrible. It felt kind of like not appreciated for myself, but appreciated for the pedigree. And even though I'd worked my entire life to get that pedigree, not being able to sell a painting or earn a living or get anywhere in life, but be like kind of talked to as like a pedigreed person. And after a while, when you get a little older, and let's say you're like 40, you're 45, you're 50, and you don't have the museum shows, and you don't have the catalogs, and you don't have the auction history that you expected when you were 20, that kind of that pedigree really is an oppression.
It's heavy.
It's heavy.
It works on you.
Yeah, it works on you.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I mean. Like I've spent most of my life disproving my art education, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. And actually, it's an interesting, I want to sort of put a pin in that because I want to go to Mike, your bio, and maybe we can talk about the intersections of you two. But Mike, if you'll indulge me, I read a bit of a bio for you that I want to sort of replay for the audience, right? It included this statement. So, with a preternatural sense of how spatial elements work, He, Mike, enrolled in the Pratt Institute to study architecture. Recognizing his own artistic abilities, he left school to pursue his work as a painter. Okay, so that struck me for a few reasons. One, there felt like a sort of calm confidence in sharing something that you tried something and it didn't work out. And then also because what follows, you say, his works are mainly architectural, black and white ink drawings at first. The color came after his experience as a wood finisher when he learned how to combine tonalities. So I liked that because it felt like a really nice way to demonstrate what it actually means to be self trained and how you were building on interests and experiences to facilitate the work you wanted to make. Is that a fair reading of
That's a
that?
very fair reading. And I didn't even, I gotta say, I didn't even try to get into Pratt. Like I had a portfolio, a collection of buildings that I've designed and floor plans and, black and white and ink drawings and etchings. And we showed this to the headmaster at Pratt. He offered me a scholarship, and it was just like, oh, I'm in, just based on my portfolio. It wasn't even about grades or anything. It just took me there, and immediately I was disillusioned though, because I felt like, oh, I'm becoming a cog in a machine. I'm being trained to work within like building systems, and it took all the magic out of it for me. And I was just disenchanted immediately after thinking for years and years, I'm going to be an architect. I'm going to do this. I'm going to study. When I was 5 years old, I used to soothe myself before going to sleep and think, well, if I was dropped into the woods, how would I build a structure? What would I do? Where would my poop go? How would I, how would I do?
Yeah.
And I was very, very hung up on how to manage my own life. And it's something to do with coming from a disrupted family, like a broken working class family. My parents really didn't know up from down. They were just kids trying to work it out for themselves. And they were Catholic and they had 4 kids. I'm the first of 4 children. And I think that for me, it was looking for that security. That's what architecture was for me. So as soon as I got to Pratt, it was very disappointing that I just said, let me give this scholarship up, let me try something else. And then I went to New York Tech and then bounced back and forth between New York Tech about 3 times, enrolled and then dropped out and enrolled and dropped out. And then I realized that I don't have any interpersonal skills. I need to have, at that point, it was about finding a boyfriend. Let me find, because I wasn't even out. And I just needed to find that security for myself. And, looking back on it, it's funny because for a while I regretted dropping out, but now I'm very happy I did do it this way. It's sort of like the inverse of how you feel like it works against you. I feel like, well, maybe it's better that I didn't go into university and have a formal training with art or architecture. I'm really glad that I'm not an architect today, but I'm still fascinated, just as I was when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I still think like, well, how could we fix the cob from melting? Let's build. We're out in the desert. We're building with our hands. It's all craftsmen.
Well, we built our studio.
Yeah.
We live in rural New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and we built our studio out of hand built our studio, dug the foundation. We built a wall to protect our courtyard from wind. There's a lot of architecture that happens on the homestead over here.
Yeah, and as we were building, I kept saying, oh my God, this reminds me of my early childhood, like 3 years old, 4 years old, in the backyard in Brooklyn, making mud pies, just digging in the mud. There was a tiny garden about like a 10 by 6, but it was this world, this wonderland that I could escape into. Yeah. Yeah. And that's
So, Mike, oh, Everest, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just gonna. I talk a lot. I'm sorry. I was just gonna tell Mike that I thought it was badass that you dropped out, and I always thought it was really. It really impressed me, and I was like, this guy he's got this real kind of like clear mind who can see when an investment isn't going to be working out and was able to kind of step out of college
Well,
and be like, this isn't for
it
me.
was very confusing at the time. I
Yeah.
didn't have it so clear. And thank you, Everest,
Yeah.
for kind of giving me that perspective that I could appreciate that I'm sort of fresh
Yeah.
and new and
Yeah.
original
Yeah.
in my way.
Yeah. I thought it was
Yeah.
like a revolutionary act.
Yeah, well, well, what you're both saying is sometimes it doesn't add up until we're a little bit past where we are, like where we've been, right? But Mike, I think the thing that struck me was you saying you didn't have interpersonal skills. Like I don't even know if I would recognize that version of you because I have experienced you as a
Uh-huh.
very warm and engaged person, but also your career journey has been pretty eclectic, right? So decorative painter, wood finisher, actor, escort, surrogate partner, and astrologer. We'll talk about astrology in a minute, but you note that these roles together for you have formed a living study of intimacy, labor, and identity. Can you
Sure.
elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. And one piece built on the other piece. Uh, and fresh out of school, it was about finding a partner, someone that I could trust, someone that I could feel safe with. And as I learned about what makes love and partnership, figuring out if I could do what my parents couldn't. It was always and still is about how I'm doing what my parents couldn't, how I'm keeping my home together by being healthy with my partner, by building, by being creative, by being experimental, and just showing myself that I can do something. It's always like turning what I thought I knew about myself on its head and saying, nope, I'm going to bust through these boundaries and do something original and work against my Catholic upbringing and the superstitions and the dread and the fear and the heaviness that comes with being from a working class family in
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the 70s, being born in 1978 in Greenpoint, it was so different from the way it is today. There was just a lot of it was rough, and we weren't allowed out of the
No.
house until we were like teenagers. We weren't allowed off the block for many years.
And
Yeah,
you come
until the
from a tough
90s.
family.
Yes, and my
Yeah.
family's very tough. And I'm very sensitive. So it was always about learning how to be tough without being destructive. You know, like learning how to develop a thick skin while still remaining so soft that you could
Yeah.
really listen to someone else.
Well, and it's interesting this idea of shaping yourself almost in the anti-image. You're sort of constructing an alternative. And Everest, you mentioned performance art.
Yeah.
You had a series, Everest DIY, right, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Uh, you launched it about 8 years ago, right? And I think there's some interesting synergy between what Mike is talking about and what you were actually doing on screen for people. But essentially, it was a range of topics from what I could gather,
Mhm.
about 29 episodes. Some of
Mhm.
the ones that jumped out for me, you had uses for your grandmother's camping juicer, so
Yes.
heirlooms. Heirlooms
Yes.
become practical objects. You talked about chapeau de chauffeur. You talked about how going to Venice led you to an artist related freakout. You talked about Titian, how quitting your job was directly linked to the Big Bang. There were so many creative, tongue in cheek ways of connecting fairly mundane life events. One of my personal favorites was when you did Yogurt Bubble Party. But I'm curious because the trailer, it almost starts out like I'm in the midst of a midlife crisis. I
Yes.
am not sure where I'm going. So can you tell us like why Everest DIY started, the role that humor played in developing the episodes, and whether that was like intentional or subconscious?
How do I talk about this? Well, it was okay, rock bottom. Rock damn bottom of my life. I was homeless. I was like lucky enough that a dear friend of mine let me stay in a space. I kind of took it over as a studio. I took it all over as my living space. I didn't have.
You're a good squatter.
I'm a really good squatter. I was homeless at the time, which is it's a hard pill to swallow. I was like, for X, Y, and Z, but mostly Y. And I was just kind of in this like awful spot where it felt really dark, and I was like, all right, what's the breakthrough action and what's the revolutionary action of this, and how can I understand this not as like, I'm a failure as a human being and as a man and as a New Yorker. At that time I was working in fashion. Lots of very wealthy friends, lots of very wealthy clients. I had really expensive suits. I had 50 pairs of shoes, and I was homeless. New York story. And the whole thing was so ridiculous. And it was like, here I am, like, how do I process this? And I was making funny videos for the store I was working at the time, the store called Kieran's Vet. And I was like, okay, let's just make some funny videos and just kind of get stuff out and just get things out on camera. I love YouTube. I love, public access. I just love, vernacular. I love kind of awkwardness. I like weird kind of like awkward moments in speech and conversation where things fall and fail down. And I was exploring that. And I was like, okay, let's just imagine that the world's over and I'm the only person in the world and I'm making my TV viewing, and this is what I'm doing. And so it was like kind of like trying to get myself to do something because I was in such a deep depression and I didn't know how to cook and I didn't know how to eat. There was this one video I did where I made salad, and it's literally how I was eating. And I just had a bag of salad and I would just cut it and put a little bit of like salad dressing and shake it up.
Style.
And so the whole video was like how to have salad without any utensils and like no kitchen, and you're living in your studio and you're so depressed you can't even get out of the couch. Like, just do something. And then it just kind of like evolved into all these like silly little videos where I was reinventing how to do things. There was this one video, I think it's still up, where I made kind of window plant containers, flower pots on the window, but I made it out of like garbage that I found. So like discarded kind of bamboo blinds, and I rolled it up and I put some dirt in it and some weeds. I put it on the windowsill.
See, what can we turn into a container?
And then I discovered that the light in the refrigerator was really fabulous. And I did this whole Ovid. I love Ovid. I love the metamorphosis. And so I did the Ovid metamorphosis from the refrigerator by opening it up, and then I'd tell the story about what happened, and then I'd close the. It was great. It was a lot of like fun, and also I felt so self-conscious about it, which is this perverse thing that I just kind of love. Feeling self-conscious and feeling awkward.
Feeling clumsy,
and just kind of falling into it and appreciating the clumsy, awkward failure.
Yeah, we're human.
And the humanness.
Yeah, we're human.
It's like really delicious. Yeah. And how to punch through and how to change reality and how to break my reality. And constantly like smashing through and breaking through realities and pushing. It's like it's a magical working in a way where, I'm changing the reality. I'm changing the timeline. I'm changing the communication.
Your vibration. Your whole vibration.
Bingo, right there.
Starting low, and then you're bringing yourself up.
Or I'm low and I'm, parallel.
You're just lateral.
I'm lateral. I don't think I got the vibration up for that. No. I think it was a lateral move. And then
it's a creative process.
It is.
You're
it is.
I'm birthing.
I'm birthing
ridiculous.
Something. And it's ridiculous, and I couldn't sell a painting. I couldn't make any money. I couldn't find housing. Everything was failing. All of my relationships were falling apart. I was chasing all these like young, like stupid kids around and like trying to figure out how to be like 25 again. And it was just all
pathetic.
It was so clumsy. And then eventually what happened with the Everest DIY is well, we moved, but then I forgot the passwords to the YouTube and to the email account, which was the ultimate kind of Everest DIY um, wrapping up. And so now it's just adrift in YouTube, and I have no control over it. And so it's just kind of in the space, and it's just kind of lingering around all these ridiculous actions I was doing.
Well, I love how it's this time capsule, and yet you're not tempted to break into it. You're just letting it exist.
No, I can't. It's done. It's finished.
It's done.
Um,
All right, it's finished. But what isn't finished is actually what I was observing just now is I want to sort of shift into this creative coupling
yeah.
concept because just now what I felt, if anybody watches you guys on Big Apple Mountain Tarot, there is this wonderful natural seamless interplay between you two. It didn't feel like Mike was interrupting so much as he was adding and augmenting finishing thoughts, right? So can you guys talk about let's use Big Apple Mountain Tarot as the frame, right, for this creative collaboration that you guys do together. Tell us what it is, how it got started. And I'm also very curious about whether you guys have formal roles or personas, anything that you're willing to share. I know you don't want to give all your magic away, but
Mhm.
how you prepare, and how you actually go through doing the YouTubes and then you do individual consultations. Like, how does it all come together?
It comes together. It's just a conversation, and that's how we uh, began speaking astrology to each other. With each other rather. We were just hanging out in Ridgewood, Queens, in the studio, talking about what's it like to be an Aquarius.
Yeah.
What's it like for Leos? And like just bouncing ideas back and forth. And yes, giving each other the floor and listening, really listening, not waiting to speak, not interrupting, but just following each other's thoughts.
Mhm.
And that's how we do anybody's chart too. We look at the planets and the
Mhm.
houses
Mhm.
and the signs, and we discuss what this might mean, what this might indicate. And it's all very loose. It's mights and maybes and perhaps, and
Yeah.
it's pseudoscience. And
It's
we're like, we have to admit that all the time. Like, this is a pseudoscience. But if we were going to follow it closely, this might be what it would sound like. And then we just build a little profile, and we come to the table
yeah.
with our clients and discuss what we see, and it's always kind of close to what's going on for people,
Yeah.
which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like the thing. Okay, so you know, it's not dissimilar from painting. It's like you've got like a framework. Let's say it's a landscape or it's a still life. Everything can kind of be like jumbled into either like landscape or still life or figurative, no matter what it is, if it's not if it's abstract or not. And so you have that framework, you just hang it on, and it's an interpretation of that genre. And when we're talking about like Aquarius or Leo, it's the same thing as like a landscape or a still life. There's certain criteria and certain tones and certain vibrations that happen within that space, that architectural framework of it. I've always been interested in astrology. I've always been interested in tarot. Mike and I were watching a lot of tarot and astrology videos on YouTube for years before we started.
For me, in my adolescence, it was a way of understanding people and categorizing and seeing similarities between people. Like, oh, you're a Scorpio. You like this. This is dark, right? It's very clear cut. Yeah.
It is clear cut. And even though it's a pseudoscience, there are thousands of minds that have added to this pseudoscience and this ultimate higher consciousness, the superconscious that all humans share together. I'm going to get super woo-woo about this. The collective consciousness is tapped into. And even though it's Mike and me talking, we're also in conversation with 5,000 years of astrologers, 5,000 years of tarot, if you want to think that the tarot goes back to ancient Egypt. So it's a collaborative effort. And then when we're in, a session with a client, it's super collaborative because we're talking back and forth.
And triad. And
There's
just it's this beautiful symbiosis.
There's a triangle, and we're having a conversation. Part of the reading is the conversation and the speech and the thought and the back and forth
and the listening. The listening is so important.
Most important.
It's really listening, tuning your ear.
Yeah, and so the videos they take a while for us to do. We do, we study independently, and we kind of we'll spend a whole day reading and looking at what's going on and going through all of our books and have all these fun old books, and then we'll get together, and then we'll be like, da, 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 da.
So this is what we say. Is it true?
And then we'll talk about it back and forth,
and
we'll go through everything, and then we'll take a break.
And then we'll do it again.
And then we do it again.
And see if it's the same.
And we'll see if it's the same idea.
That we missed. Yeah.
And so it's a lot of critical thinking in my head. And then it's wonderful to have, I trust Mike implicitly. I think he's super brilliant. And he's a totally different way of seeing things. Well, it's not totally different. He has a different way of seeing things than I do and talking about things. And we'll kind of talk about these different ideas, and there's some things in astrology that I like to focus on, and there's some things that Mike likes to focus on, and then I feel like we kind of get to it, and usually these two brains kind of find it out, and it's oh, that's what it is. This is it. And sometimes I'm like, Mike, this is it. This is what's going on. And he's like, no, that's not what's going on. I'm like, no, it's true. The 3-eye atlas, it's aliens. He's like,
no, stop it.
And he
stop it.
Yeah, and Mike is
I like to burst the bubble.
Yeah, and I love that. Mike is super grounded and very you're not super material, but you're pretty grounded.
No, I'm pretty practical.
You're very practical.
Very practical. Yeah.
And Mike has this amazing moral compass, which is so perfect and so right on the money and so precise in its northern trajectory that it's mind-blowing. And I always trust his moral compass.
I'm always asking, though, is this helping? Is this hurting? Is this helping? Are we raising our frequency? Are we doing better than before? And that's my drive. I'm always like, let's try to do better. Let's look at our mistakes and reevaluate and then do better. Mm-hmm. It's better, better, better. It's fatiguing, but it's it's strength. And Everest, you're so good at, freeing me up and getting me to play and saying, this is not important. Don't worry about that.
Yes.
Play it loose. And that's the lesson I'm getting from you.
Yeah. Play it loose and let it fall apart.
Let it fall apart. Let it do its thing. That's more creative. That's more brilliant.
Yeah. Things are a little better when they're broken.
They are. I agree with you in that. Yeah. Because there's somewhere to go.
Yeah.
I'm really I'm thinking this idea of what you guys are talking about, it also maybe echoes in locations, right? Because you both started out your artistic practices. Mike, you started your life in New York, right? And then you moved. You guys are in New Mexico, right? And I'm just curious about the frequencies of those two places and what that's meant to each of you individually, and also as a couple. What has the change of scene done for you?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, in New York, before I left in 2020, I was painting these enormous paintings on lucite mirror, leaving a lot of open space for reflection to happen, because it was just how I moved through the city, like feeling emotions and thinking about ideas, and then seeing myself in the reflection of a building, because everything's glass in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's like reflections, and what does that look like? Imagining something and then putting it on a mirror. And then as soon as we moved out here, I realized the mirrors don't work at all in New Mexico. In fact, there's too much glare.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be muted and painted kind of matte and dusty and chalky. Yeah. Yeah. So it was a complete 180 for how I was painting in New York City. And also in New York City, it was always about the hustle and making rent. And there wasn't always enough time to paint, so that by the time I was ready to paint, an idea was boiling and just had to come out. Like right now, in an hour, because I have to go back to work, back to the hustle, back to the grind. I have to make rent. There's so much pressure. And I think that's something that we still feel out here in New Mexico, even though we're in the middle of the state, in the middle of nowhere almost. You could see 100 miles in every
Yeah.
direction. But if you're sitting for more than a few minutes, it's like a timer goes off and it's like, God, I got to make something. I got to do something. I have to cook something. I have to build something. I have to clean something. I have to, right? We have to exercise. We can't sit. We have to walk the dog,
Go drive and go
Yeah.
hiking. Go drive and go see the West.
Yeah, change our perspective. We have to get out, move around, travel. Yeah.
Yeah. It's location, location, location. I can't tell you how profound location is to what happens to your life and to the information that you ambiently take in has a very profound effect on you. We moved out to New Mexico during the COVID pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I was out of options.
Me too.
We
were both. I felt like I couldn't possibly figure out how to make money while during shutdown.
Yeah.
And all these new protocols for, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense. And you said, let's go to New Mexico. Let's be with my parents. And I just thought, yes, because
Sure.
I've traveled to California a lot and I just felt so happy, like out west. God, the light's different. Yeah. The sky is so expansive in the mountains. It's all about the mountains for me. Of course, I'm with someone named Everest. I'm a complete orophile. I've always been into the mountains and I used to look at the canyons of New York City and imagine that it was the canyons out west, that it was the Grand Canyon, and look at the light and just think, man, these buildings are okay, but I wish I was out west. Yeah, so moving blind was just the best thing I could have done because it reminded me of how my ancestors came to the country. Mm-hmm. They didn't tour, New York City before moving there. They just had to.
They didn't get brochures before.
No.
They didn't have any options.
And leaving New York felt it was mixed. It felt like defeat, but also opportunity. Like, okay, this is where we are. I don't know where it's going, but we're here.
No. Yeah. I was, like I said, I was out of options. And then COVID happened. And I had slowly kind of like disassembled my life and disassembled the way I was making money. And I cut my hours on my job in order to keep myself below a tax bracket. And so I kind of I developed a poverty philosophy, where if you keep things real trimmed down, you keep it real poor, and you keep it so poor that you can't be hurt anymore, for better, it's kind of what came into my head, but it's true. If you keep it really low, and as a homeless person, I was homeless for 5 years. That's really tough. But I was working, and I was living in New York City, and when COVID happened, I was working for this ridiculous company. And
it was such a front.
It was such a front. It was such a shell. An Italian company. I won't get into it, but it was.
Never mind.
I don't care. But I'm like wearing like a $3,000 suit and like sitting around bored all day long, and then
like eating a pretzel.
No money for food, and just kind of like, what the hell am I doing? And then it shut down. The whole world shut down, and I was like, oh my God, here it is. Here's this moment.
But leading up to that moment, as you were saying, you were trimming down, and for me, I just wanted every day to get home.
Right.
I'm like, get me through these crowds. I don't want to deal with the subway anymore. I'm sick of walking up and down Lexington Avenue. I can't take this anymore.
No.
Like, I just want to get home. Right. More time at home.
Yeah.
Again, that architecture of a safe space.
And
like,
I literally
yeah.
couldn't see my friends. I couldn't go to our openings. Everything just seemed so vacant and artificial and masturbatory. And then this wonderful opportunity happened, and literally out of the blue, my mother called me. She's like, "Hey, what you doing?" And I was like, "I'm losing my mind." She's like, "Why don't you move to New Mexico?" And I hadn't lived with my parents since I was like, I left home when I was 16, and like my perverse brain is like, "Oh, this is the most interesting thing I could do right now in my life is to move back home with my parents and help them and make sure that they survive this horrible COVID." And I had these ideas of the soul contract, where we are all the people that you kind of deal with on the day to day. We're on this reincarnation tract, and we're all dealing with each other again through lifetimes,
in and out. Yeah,
through lifetimes in and out. And this seemed like the prime time to deal with my karma in the next life, deal with my karma in this first life, really like support my mom and dad and
I
help
have
them.
Some loose ends.
Yeah, and my dad's kind of got like fragile health. It's less fragile than we all talk about. We all think he's like made of glass. He's very sick. He's very, very sick. He's dying.
Nope.
No, he's not.
Not true.
No, not true.
We're all dying.
We're all dying.
No. No.
So then on top of like helping them, I got to disprove, this is this big word with me. I got to disprove all of that and really find out what the meat of the matter
What's
is.
underneath it all.
What's underneath it all. And then coming to rural New Mexico, we live in this town called Estancia, population 600 people. There's
half the people here are in the prison.
Yeah,
we have an ice prison.
We have an ice prison. It's a farming community.
Yeah.
It is not a Santa Fe community. This is a beef farming community and beans. So it's real rural. And then to be like an out gay man in a small town in New Mexico.
Kind of red. Yeah.
It's pretty red. If it's not red, it's very conservative.
But again, this is a place that we always thought we'd never live in a place like that. When we were living in New York, we'd never come to a place like this. What would we do in a place like this? That makes no sense. Until we're there, and then it's like, if not me, who else would do this? This town needs us.
It makes all the sense.
Yeah, it does.
And like getting out, changing your perspective, breaking down the timeline, literally destroying your life and recreating it and rebuilding it, rebuilding your friendships, rebuilding how you make money, what money means. And when I was out here, money means something differently. It's like a real micro economy. There's a lot of bartering between people. You trade like some car parts for some labor. Literally, this is what happens.
A bunch of straw.
Like straw gets traded for labor.
You let my cows graze on your land, you get a write-off.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah, there's tax write-offs if you have grazing animals, livestock on your property. So a lot of people share their livestock with other people to keep their taxes low. And it's hardscrabble. Nobody
shows off.
No one shows off
with their money. You don't know that people have money. You could look at their spread and say, man, they got a barn, and then they got a chicken coop, and they got a house, and they got an electric gate, and that's pretty expensive. But it doesn't look like anything. It's very simple.
Yeah. It doesn't look like, and there's like a lot of cattle money, a lot of bean money, and a lot of ice money right now. Yeah. And right now, it's dark over here in Estancia. There's a lot of police. They opened a second police precinct. There's no grocery store. You have to drive 45 minutes to a grocery store.
Too many churches.
There's only 2 grocery stores in our county. There's 10 churches. In here. So it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, going back to this idea of home, both figuratively and actually, right? You guys are in a space right now. Did you build it? Did you find it? Is it a mix? Like, tell me a little bit about
It's
the walls.
about the walls. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, not just the walls, but like, like you got to this place, Everest's parents had come on over, and then I'm picturing like this little, like you guys like in a covered wagon, like, planting what happened on day two? Like,
Pretty much covered
Yeah,
wagon
that's the U-Haul
settler.
we moved in. It was so tiny, tiny and packed, and it was
Yeah.
like, God, we're driving.
We're
out.
driving. It was very dramatic
Yeah.
driving during COVID cross country and leaving New York and then introduced to Americans. Introduced to, there's this one point we were in West Virginia, and we had kind of like broken through the magnetic pole of New York. Like you can get into Jersey, you can get a little bit into Pennsylvania, but New York still got you. And once you get past through Pennsylvania,
Right.
and we
I think you're thinking of another trip because we didn't go to West Virginia out this way, but we hit Kansas. We came through Kansas City, Missouri, and it was like everything looks kind of still East Coast.
No, you're right.
Kind of, it's like, okay, it's Pennsylvania, it's farm, and Missouri looks about the same. But then right after Kansas City, when we hit Kansas proper, we were near the town of Manhattan, Kansas, and the sky opened up. It was like I've never seen so much sky in my life, and windmills, and verdant, rolling plains, and just and water too. Like Kansas is a lot greener than you'd think it is.
Kansas is gorgeous,
and we just fell in love, and it was like we must be over the rainbow,
right?
Like, oh my God.
Nope, I think it was. Yeah. I think it was in Kansas.
It was Pawnee Rock.
No, I was wearing a COVID mask, and at one point we were at a gas station, and I had my COVID mask on, and then I was like, "There's nobody around." And I just took the mask off, and this good old boy like pulled up next to me. He's like, "I'm glad you took that thing off your face. We're all gonna be okay." And I'm like,
"We're gonna be okay."
Okay.
Yeah, and it was really about like, like coming out here where when we got into Estancia Valley, it looked to me like the Hudson Bay, but without the city. It was like the city was wiped away, and you could fit maybe 3 New York cities in this valley. It's just so vast and amazing.
And then didn't you say when did the tornado go through?
Oh, right. So when did the tornado come through? All the trees look really messed up. All the trees look like half alive. That's just how they look. Because we'll get 2 feet of snow at once. Like last year at this time, we had 2 feet of snow, broke all the trees in town. They were still green. And that was it. That's what shapes the cottonwoods. Mm-hmm. It's like, God, everything looks so rough.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful, beautiful, because I feel like this is the heart of America. These people, although we may be politically different, these are my neighbors and I love them. I love them.
Yeah. But the core politics aren't different. Everyone wants
the same thing.
Everybody wants their family to be healthy and happy, to have food on their table, and to be respected. And to be respected as an individual. And we're all curious about each other. Mike and I, before we moved out here, we did a lot of traveling, all over. I love America. I love Americans. I love talking to my country members. I just love it. I love the differences. I love, the collision. I'm a recent Democrat. I've been a Republican all my life, and I'm fascinated. As dark as it is, this conversation we're having on what makes America, and what are we, and how do we balance each other, and how do we ultimately resolve the issue with the hippie and the square.
But speaking of hippies, your question was the walls here.
Oh yeah, we got
off. The property
here.
Back to the walls here, and your parents are hippies.
Yeah, my
right?
parents are big hippies.
And this is their property. They're non-for-profit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my parents live in town. We live about 7 miles away
Mhm.
on a family compound. That at maybe about 15 years ago, my mother was having a lot. She's part of this group called the 13 grandmothers, and she's a Native American, and the group of grandmothers are all Native American elders, and they are a club, and they kind of talk about how to resolve issues and manage manage the disparity of being an elder Native American in a Western society.
Yeah, and this is one of the buildings that we're in. It's the Hogan. It's an eight-sided building. It's beautiful. And then on the other side of the property, it's 40 acres, so it's really, really vast. And we were given what was called the children's house.
The children's house.
Which we still call it. It's just a shed dropped on the floor of the desert.
Yeah, it's a tough shed.
And it was across from a open pole barn that was a hay barn.
Yeah.
And what we did, and man, the wind out here is fierce, so we enclosed the yard between the children's house and the pole barn. We put up an adobe wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then enclose the hay barn so that it's a Adobe studio. So now it's like 2 buildings plus a greenhouse that we built for a little bathroom because there's no plumbing over there.
Yeah, our part of the property doesn't have plumbing, and so that was like a real fun thing to figure out.
And I go back to my 5-year-old self. I'm like, what do we do for water? What do we do with our waste? What do we do? I know what to do now.
Yeah. And so, so we have our private outhouse, and we have our own, gravity-fed water system.
Yeah.
And we have our own kind of, settler,
and
vibes.
It's not that rough because there is water here.
Yeah.
We just fill up bottles and walk them over and, bring, clean, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. And in the desert, you think about water totally different from the way it is on the East Coast. You realize what a folly it is to poop in drinking water.
It's offensive.
It is. Once you're living without water for so long, you're like, God, that's wrong. How much water could we save by,
Yeah. To defecate in water.
No.
I find so offensive.
Yeah.
Certainly, I have a flush. We have a
Certainly
flushing toilet
we do.
here. I do use a flushing toilet.
But we also have a composting toilet, which is easier than it sounds.
It's better for the environment.
Because you're making...
So I guess one of the things I'm sort of reflecting back after hearing you guys is there's a sense of possibility. You sort of see challenges not as barriers, but you're always breaking something open and refitting or reframing or redoing. Yeah. I wonder, I'm guessing you must have a lot of people who come to you from around the world, like at different life stages, different needs. Like, what are some of the themes? Because you were just talking about, like, we all want the same things, right? At a human level. Are there other themes that you're seeing people grappling with today and ways that you're sort of thinking about your practice differently as a result?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to be careful. The way I approach my life is not for everybody. The way I approach finances certainly is not for everybody.
Right. We are careful with people. We don't try to advise them into chaos. We crave that chaos, but we wouldn't want that for someone else. We're very, very cautious, right?
Yeah, and there's, when we've had astrology readings that are very heavy, and they have to do with
family relationships, trauma,
health, heavy health issues.
Work and worthiness, and could I start my own business at this age? And often people really know what they want to do, but they're looking for the indication, and it's that's where we.
Well, this goes back to sales. I was a salesperson for over 20 years, and usually, and I feel like everybody should do sales at once in their life. just to know how to deal with another person and how to like talk to somebody. But most people would come into the stores I would be working with, either to not buy anything and you help them not buy something, or you're justifying them buying something that they've already kind of have an idea of what they need. And so when we're doing an astrology reading, it's it's kind of like that same thing. It's like, how do you justify the conversation? How do you justify a conversation of like, I'm sick and my body doesn't work anymore, and how can I be happy? How do you
I
justify
think the
that?
first thing to do is to give them like the forgiveness for being where they are.
Yeah.
That's what people need first. It's like, how do you forgive yourself for all your mistakes up until this moment? Like, how do you accept that you were this person, and now I'm free of that shame and blame and heaviness, and I could move again, and I could go in a direction I didn't even expect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So it's I always have to really be very careful because I don't want to give anyone bad advice.
We never will.
No, I never would. But I'm cautious of it, and it's a pseudoscience. Like astrology and tarot are pseudoscience, and essentially we're just having a conversation.
It is just a key to have a conversation, right? Yeah.
And conversations with people like what we're doing right now. This is primary. This is primary human contact, to listen and to speak and to have a conversation.
And to lighten ourselves.
Yes.
To lighten up a little.
Yeah. To laugh and to smile.
And humor is more important than anything,
And to find the success.
And it's mixed, too, because we laugh for a while, then we think, okay, we have to get back to work. And it's like, well, can't we just laugh forever? We just,
Well, I'm going to get it wrong, and I apologize to the author, but essentially I was reading something. It's a book called We Refuse, and it's talking about African Americans and different mechanisms of resistance. And there's a full-on chapter on joy. And the author sort of talks about how happiness is a fleeting thing. It's not, but joy in some ways is much more complex and much deeper, right? And it's sort of like in sort of the African American like Baptist church, like you may be weeping, but joy comes in the morning. This idea that going through things actually makes joy possible in a way, right?
Yes, the balance, the back and forth, and you can't have one without the other.
No, joy is a creative endeavor. This is fifth house, Leo kind of energy. Joy is the joy from creation. It's the joy from children. It's the joy from doing. It's joy from gardening and watching flowers grow. It's the joy of conversation. It's the joy of like day to day.
And cooking. And nurturing. And just,
nurturing and love.
Yeah.
The joy of love and being a loving person and compassionate and empathetic.
And poking through heaviness too. And finding humor and being able to stay, as we were approaching Halloween, being able to look at the darkness and go, that's not that bad. That's not so scary.
That's not so scary.
Like horror is slowly turning into comedy. You look at movies like Weapons, you see, what's her name? Amy Madigan.
I believe
with
that crazy face.
Crazy character. And it's like, have you ever seen anything so scary and funny at the same time?
Yeah, or Art the Clown.
Like, right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's
well, we're going to, you know what? You guys are actually taking me to the next section very beautifully.
Oh.
Lightning round. I don't have any sound effects, so that's lightning round, right? Maybe you can design some for me. But this is where I try to ask consistent questions of all of my guests. So the first has to do with preoccupations. This is about how do we think about those things that we often come back to over and over again in the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell others, and if we're in the business of storytelling, the stories we create for others to consume. they can start with things like I love, I hate, I wish I had, I've always wondered. Some of mine include organized animal crime networks, ancestors, and work life integration. And I know you guys have talked about some throughout the conversation, but just one, Everest and then Mike.
I would say my major preoccupation is journaling, and everything is some sort of journal. I've always been a diarist. I always written down things, and just different types of journaling, documenting what I see and then reflecting upon it in its larger aspects. Right now, I'm very obsessed, I think, with the Ukraine war and with the detailed minutia of war correspondence and their journal of not just the war and the atrocities, but also the development of new technologies and new ways of waging military actions and political actions. It's a big preoccupation.
Mike, how about you?
I think that for me, it's places that haunt me, not haunted houses, but like houses that call to me and find me, and it's a lot to do with geography too. Like I spend a lot of time just staring at GPS, saying, "What's going on here? What's going on here? And why is this area calling me? And why do I keep going back to this one spot?" And it just reminds me a lot of how we used to move through New York City, not really planning our day, but somehow we'd find ourselves at the same geographical point 3 times in one day, somehow, without planning it. It's like, man, I'm once again on 28th Street and Lexington Avenue. What is going on with this one spot? Why do I keep coming back to this? Like how does fate and mystery move me through the world?
Yeah, definitely.
Like why do I keep coming back to this one point? What's going on here? What do I have to find? Something's calling me. I don't know what it is, but I got to find out.
And then I'll get that look, and then the next day we're in the car and we're going on some big road trip.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we're gonna find it. We're gonna find that location mystery.
Yeah, God, that's such a good question that you've asked, because I'm like, God, there's so many things. I love architecture. I love UFOs and Sasquatch, and I love, more than anything, I just love mystery and being a little creeped out. Yeah, and I love that tension.
Okay. Well, that's and Everest can document all of it. So it's great. The journaling and the
Yeah, I do.
I'm like, Everest, you're writing what you just experienced 5 minutes ago. Stop.
Today we are
More time.
It's like,
well, going from preoccupations to superpowers. So one of the reasons I really love doing this podcast is learning more about what makes people unique. We all have things that we're really good at, that people seek us out for, that make us stand out. And because I have you both, I'm actually going to change it up just a slight bit. I'm going to ask Mike, what's one of Everest's superpowers? And Everest, what's one of Mike's superpowers?
oh man. Ooh.
What's one of Everest's superpowers? Everest's superpower is to make light of the darkest day. Like when I wake up and I'm feeling everything is collapsing and the world is in the garbage, he will make me laugh. He'll remind me it's not that bad. We're human. It's just fine. Laugh.
Yes. Often I'll say, well, now we're living.
Yeah, he'll like acknowledge it. He won't discount it.
No.
That's the beauty.
No.
He'll agree with me and then find the reason why it's not that heavy. I'm like, man, I need you. Without you, I don't know where I'd be. Really.
Oh.
Thank you. I need that because it tempers me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Mike's superpower is that moral compass. I always trust this man. and he's got two superpowers, but they're related. He is incredibly empathetic. He's able to tap into his emotions, process them, and go beyond them very quickly. He's got a Scorpio moon, so he's got this real feisty darkness, which I adore. But he's right. He's totally right. And if he says that's wrong, that should not happen. This is wrong to do this to people. This is offensive. Blah blah blah. And if he's always right, and he gets really fired up on the injustices and the horrors,
stuff that we can't control,
the absolute horrors of the material plane and what happens to humans and how humans treat each other is horrific. And I can always rely on him to be like, no. Which is wonderful. I think it's the greatest thing to have in a partner is to be able to be like, well, where's the ship going? Where do I go? And I give everybody a lot of leeway, and I give everybody a lot of like room to, it gets confusing for me sometimes. It's like, is that the right action that they're doing? I can't tell, I just want everybody to have a good time and enjoy their time on Earth.
That's our similarity. I, too, just want everyone to have a good time. And that's not realistic.
No.
Of course.
No.
But that's what I want.
Yeah.
I really want everyone to experience love and creation and just have an easy life. And that's just not the way it is.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Well, it's okay. And maybe with this next question, we can help move that needle. So the next question it's an ask. And I'm here too is about community. I'm loving bringing people together so that we can share and learn and be inspired by these actual human conversations that we're having. And you've both given us a lot during this conversation, and outside of it, you're very generous with your time and your resources. So I'm curious, what's something that the audience can do for each of you or you collectively?
Just come talk to us. What's something that they could do? Come talk to us. Be kind to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to promote our YouTube channel. Go to Big Apple Mountain Tarot.
Boom.
Watch our videos. We do a Monday 3-card tarot pull. We do new moon videos and we do full moon videos. I put my heart and soul into that. And I put a lot of time and love in there. And I would love for more people to subscribe and watch us on YouTube. And not just us, but watch community YouTube channels. Get off of the mainstream media. Stop watching the mainstream news.
It's spoon-fed.
It's
just...
The corporate news cycles are so boring and so predictable. Go on YouTube and find independent people who are thinking and producing their own shows.
And be funky.
Be funky. Be funky.
Everything,
Be funky.
When I look at social media, it's like there's a premium on color. It's like it's so washed out looking. And I'm like, we need a lot more food for our eyeballs, just funky, fun, different.
Bring the funk. That's what Mike wants. Yeah. Watch Big Apple Mountain Tarot. Bring the funk.
Bring the funk.
Be kind to each other.
Very kind.
Find those media ecosystems that are generative and thoughtful.
Yeah.
Okay. In a nutshell. That pivots us. I mean, I think you've signaled what we should be watching, but are there any reads or listens that you're also enjoying right
now? I'm reading The Friday Afternoon Club by Griffin Dunn. It's fascinating because of movie history, and we're watching a lot of horror and comedy. And I always dust off the old box sets of kind of dry kind of British comedy.
Yeah, we're
Monty Python,
Faulty Towers.
Faulty Towers, Prunella Scales just passed away yesterday. Yeah, and just the way that comedy has changed. I'm very interested in what's classically funny and what doesn't work anymore. And how could we use these old tropes effectively today for storytelling and reporting the news and keeping it light. Yeah.
Keeping it light and ridiculous.
Because life is more ridiculous
Yes.
than theater would have you think it is, and that's why I love South Park and I love Rick and Morty. Because, Rick and Morty, it's so crazy. It's like schizophrenia. It's like the jokes are so fast, so punchy that I don't really hear them until I've watched it twice or three times. And then it's like, oh, right, now the joke lands. Now it's understandable. And that's how the multiverse works.
Yeah.
So it's like cartoons are somehow closer to reality than anything you could see.
Oh, definitely.
I think.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, once again, there's a YouTube war correspondent channel called The Enforcer, which is twice a day. It's these two young men.
The brothers.
They're brothers from Mississippi?
Alabama.
They're from Alabama.
But they've just relocated to Salt Lake City. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching them for about a year, and they are very, very dorky, detailed war correspondents that go through everything that's happening in the day, 24 hours on like world geopolitical.
With a heavy focus on the war in Russia and Ukraine, and waiting for that to wrap up.
Just waiting for Russia to collapse, which is happening very soon. So to like really like be detailed in the information that I'm receiving about the war, not just like good and bad, but the real details on like, if the Patriot missile gets sent to Ukraine, it'll only work if there are the launchers, and there's only 2 mobile launchers that were made in the United States, and so the whole thing about the Patriot missile going to Ukraine was just a big publicity statement. If you understand the details of what's happening, the larger story unfolds. And then, I'm not the best reader, terribly dyslexic, and as time goes by, I've become worse at reading. But I've got a turn of the screw in my bag that I just kind of keep. And I'm working my way through that story, which is just so good.
The movie is
movie. Oh my God, The Innocence.
The Innocence with Deborah Carr.
How many times have we seen that? It might be 10.
It might be 10. And it's one of those perfect movies. It gives me chills. It's like black and white movie that can give you chills. The creep factor is so high that it's like better than any gore that you could watch.
And it's pulled back, and there's just
Truman Capote did the screenplay. So it's unreal.
Yeah, The Innocence. So like gothic horror. I love Frankenstein. I can't wait to see the new Frankenstein. Terror of existence and getting to know you. It's like that.
What have I made?
What have I made? But the Enforcer on YouTube is
good. World War III watch.
It's beautiful. It's just my man on here.
Yeah.
Well, Everest, Mike, thank you so much for giving, a few minutes, but so much in the time that we've spent together. I really appreciate you too. And it's been a pleasure having you on.
It's been a pleasure being here. And thank you.
Thank you
for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to do this.
Yeah.
All right. Soon again. Well, that's all for this episode of I'm Here Too. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation. Please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss the next conversation. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.